You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
I got that new turf or new sod down on Everbank Stadium, and what you can't see is probably a little bit of a blanket of sorts over that pride of the Jaguars and what section Tom Coughlin will be in on Sunday. I was thinking of this yesterday. I was like, I should have done maybe like a little behind-the-scenes piece on how they do that. I was kind of interested in how they put it up and where they decide to put it up and what section and what goes into it. Hey, Jaguars.com, just a little hint. Maybe you guys should do that. I'm kind of interested. I might be alone. I'm alone on a lot of these kind of topics, but just thought that part would be a little bit fascinating. And Tom Coughlin goes into the pride. Hopefully we get a day like today, because it looks like it's a nice one here in Jacksonville. And then hopefully the scoreboard's kind to us as well here in Jacksonville. That would be nice. Usually is against the Indianapolis Colts at home, but I'm not sure if I would expect anything right now in Jags land. Brent Martineau, where is Austin Lane? He's actually not here. He's on the road to Vegas again as he heads out. Man, what a weird schedule for him. But I'm fired up for him because I know he's putting a lot of work into this. He puts a lot of work into every fight. But I think he changed it a little bit with this one coming up and knows it's a big one. And it's going to end up being like 5 weeks, I think it is, in Vegas training for this fight. And he still makes the shows like 99% of the time. But his flight was heading out this morning. So he'll be back tomorrow from Vegas and join us. October 19th, the fight's coming up. We'll actually be in London when he's fighting. So that will be interesting. I got to figure that out, how we're going to be able to check it out. But that will be a big 10 days coming up next week. It's unbelievable. I just said, I think to my wife, I was like, hey, we should be in a good little pattern after Monday Night Football. Nah, you got about a week of it. And then you go to London for a couple of weeks, and then Florida, Georgia week, and everything else. It's like, we'll see you in November. That's when things will get normalized around here. And then the storm thrown into it. We had a little Friday night blitz on a Monday last night, so a lot happening. Heck, even Mom just called me on the way in and said, a lot happening in the sports world right now. I said, yeah, you don't know the half of it here in Jacksonville. That is for sure. Brent Martineau here, Bleak Bills in the Kids Corner today and pushing all the buttons. We appreciate him being here. Hamby will be here the rest of the week. We'll have some guests today on the show, already planned, regardless of Austin not being here or being here. And we'll tell you what Emily's promise is and how actually that story, which is a sad one, turned positive for hopefully a lot of folks in what people are dealing with, also impacts the sports world, which I really didn't even know a lot about. So we'll have that coming up with Doug Atkins here in just a little bit. And we plan to do a little bit of a mention or two about Furyk and Friends golf tournament coming up. Might talk to Adam Brent for the tournament director, as that is this week at Timuquana. It's a great event. It's I always feel bad about this event because it's hard to get to this time of year as much as I want to be out there. I'd love to be covering the golf at Timuquana, but you can be there and be a part of it. And it's a very laid-back, fun event to be around some of the top golfers and some of the big names that you know at a beautiful venue in Timuquana. So hopefully we get that fine October weather for that event too. So that's coming up on the way. And speaking of Tom Coughlin, I had a chance to sit down with Tom Coughlin, Tony Baselli, and Fred Taylor last week. So if you see people saying like it's exclusive, it's not exclusive. Like the media got a chance to sit down with them on Friday. And so you have my conversation. It's interesting when everybody in the media sits down, does some like one-on-ones, what kind of questions get asked. And I'm sure some are the same, but also what ones are different, because we had about 10 minutes with each person. I might have went a little over, so maybe we had more like 15 minutes with each person. You'll hear the Tom Coughlin part, probably play Baselli and Fred Taylor a little bit later in the week. So, all right, right away, we're jumping in with Jay. Jared Goff and the Lions going to smoke the Jags by 50. Well, it's not really how the NFL works. You know, I don't even like watching football right now because of the way it's going in Jacksonville. And it's a really weird thing. I don't like watching good football because it's what it's supposed to be. Like, I'm kind of like, I can watch a little bit of the Titans and Dolphins game because it's like, you guys suck too. We know what you're dealing with. Like, that's bad. It's bad. But then you go to Detroit and Seattle and you see what they're doing. That was a good football game. And you see what they're able to do. and how they're able to move the ball and how they're able to answer and how they're able to get their quarterback playing well and the momentum that they have and the confidence they have. And it's just like, that's what it should be. I thought that's where it was headed. Why is it like this? Like, those are hard to not say. They really are. And I'm not trying to pile on here in Jacksonville. I'm just trying to be real about it. Those are hard things. I get it from the fan base. I kind of do it. I don't look at it in that way often, but I'm kind of in the boat there. I'm like, why? And Detroit, to me, if you've listened to me talk at all in the last handful of years, really the last couple of years, Detroit, to me, is such a paralleled organization with the Jags. And there have been other times in the last 15 years I've thought this way. I thought the Rams were as they were leaving St. Louis. They were a bad team. Tennessee, bad team. Like, if you go back to 2010, 11, 12, somewhere in there, the Rams, the Jags, probably the Bills too. But I always talked about the Titans, the Rams, and the Jags, I think it was, that were kind of in the same boat of, if you had taken the previous decade of wins or record or previous 5 years, it was bad. And the Bills and Browns probably in there too. But you start getting on this parallel because they were resetting it at a similar time. Well, the Rams obviously did their thing. I mean, it was a different path to get there. The Titans never really got fully there, but they were way more competitive over that stretch of time. And they obviously had the Jags number. Well, the team that now to me is like that is Detroit. To me, there's so much talk in Jacksonville right now about Bill Belichick. And hey, my mom called me today and was talking about Bill Belichick up there in New England. And I'm not there yet because I haven't fired Doug yet. I haven't. I know you guys have. I haven't. But if this tracks a certain way, there's going to be a reset of some kind in Jacksonville. And my goodness, if I had Shad Khan on line one, I'd be like, go look at Detroit. Just go look at Detroit. And I don't know if you're going to get the success they're having. But I think the ingredients are similar in Detroit as in Jacksonville. In a lot of respects. And I think the ingredients that are necessary to win, probably anywhere, but in Jacksonville, are written all over the Detroit organization. And I don't think you're getting Dan Campbell. Austin's a huge Dan Campbell guy. I haven't always been. I'm wrong on him. I didn't think that was going to work that way. But he has one thing that the Jags still don't after 3 years, even with Doug. And I do like Doug. I think he's a good head coach. I haven't wavered from that. I think I like what he's done and at least getting this team back where it should be, not right now, but over the last couple of years, and at least switching the conversation. But there's one thing Doug hasn't been able to do that Dan Campbell's done a phenomenal job of doing, and we all know this. It's identity. They have an identity. He's their identity. They live off him as an identity. They play like him. They fly around. They're tough. Hutchinson's got the paint on his face. Like, all of it is an identity. And it's hard not, it just jumps out at you. I mean, they got flags waving with grit and all that. I mean, it was always the Jags for like a minute. But they have had it for more than a minute. It's been good. It's been sustained. And then I'm telling you, and I'm going to do this a lot if we get to this point. I'll do it right here for now because Detroit coming off last night and what they look like. And I do think those are fair comps to say, why isn't Jacksonville like this? But where I'm going with it is I still think Chris Spielman's one of the most important figures in their organization. Might be totally wrong, might be overrated. But until I see it in Jacksonville, I'm going to believe it. The Jags are missing that piece. And you don't even see Chris Spielman. But Chris Spielman is a guy that's in their organization, played their organization, believes in their organization, know what the Lion means to the fans, know what that team means to the city, knows what it means to ownership. And my interpretation, I have no idea what goes on in their walls, in between the walls. I just think my interpretation is that guy has the best interest of their owner, their organization, and their city. That's all he cares about. And he can help be a part of conversations inside the building between GM, front office, football people, head coach, etc. When things start going sideways or when egos start getting bigger, and right now it probably isn't like that because things have been going pretty well in Detroit. So if it's going well, it's easy. But when it starts going a little bit sideways or needs to be decisions made, my view is a guy like Spielman can kind of be an ear. And at the very least, he's not hands-on in making these calls, but he's an ear to ownership, is my guess. That's the way I view this thing. And I'm not telling you I'm wrong. I'd have to go probably talk to somebody deeper inside the organization. That's not my job to do. That's Shad Khan's job to do. And I would point Shad Khan to the Detroit organization if he ends up resetting this at some point. And I need to find that guy. And I've said this. I think I've said it in writing. If I haven't, I will. But I've said it many times in front of a microphone. I've told some people anyway, even in private. Like, to me, Tony Baselli's that guy. I don't need Tony Baselli making the roster. He might want to, but I don't need him making the roster. I don't need him coaching a football team. But I need him looking out for the organization. I just don't know if there's a better guy in Jacksonville to look out for the organization. Who's looking out for the organization in that building? Right now, when crap's hitting the fan, nobody's looking out for the organization. They're looking out for themselves. Like, that's what happens. That's not by the way, that's not a Trent Baalke, Doug Peterson thing. That's an NFL thing. That's real. And I'm not even saying they're doing it to the degree that they will eventually do it to, or it could be at right now, or eventually. But I think you need that guy somewhere in the building, somewhere in the piece. You identify the role. They tried it. They tried it in a different way, but I'm not sure it was the right way to do it with Tom Coughlin. Like, Coughlin, the idea of that was good. Coughlin cares about this place. Cares about the place he built. Wants to see it get back. Has high hopes for it. Has high hopes for the fans. Like, gets it. But I think he was almost in maybe too much of an authoritative position because that's the way he works. I mean, it's going to be Tom's way. But at least they had identity then. Remember the last time they had identity? And I'm not sure since I've been here, they've had identity. Now, Austin might argue with that because defense was identity under Jack and maybe even a little bit under Malarkey, even though they went 2-14. But I don't know. If I have to ask the question, I have to wonder about it. I don't know. I've been here since 2008, and the only time they've really had an identity is 2017. By the way, seemed to work, didn't it? Now, was it sustainable? No. That's obvious. So that's the next stage of that. But how about we start with an identity in Jacksonville? We still don't know what it is. But I do think you need that mediator of sorts. I think you need somebody looking out for Shad, looking out for the fans, looking out for the city, looking out for the franchise, looking out for anything but themselves and the football operation side and the whatever side. Like, again, there's a lot. It's a lot. It's an interesting puzzle. It's a hard puzzle. I think these guys are trying. I think there's a lot to like about what they've done in many respects. And now, right now at 0-4, there's a lot to not like. But I do think, and this was something we noted even last year and maybe even 2 years ago. So this is not new. This isn't because they're 0-4. Again, I've been saying this for a little bit now. But if you look at Detroit, to me, they're the model. That's why be careful to look at New England if something does go and they're going to make changes. Look at Detroit. Detroit, to me, is a great example of what the Jags, and I don't think every organization needs to do it this way or has to do it this way or wants to do it this way. But I think Shad needs to do it this way here. And again, I'm going to keep throwing Baselli's name out there, and this is an advocate for Baselli. I'm just saying he, to me, makes the most sense. Maybe it is somebody else. But I think he'd be the great person to I think he would just be the guy that would care about them raising a Lombardi more than anything else he does and accomplishes. I think you need that person. I feel like Spielman in Detroit is that guy. So much so that he stays behind the scenes. You don't even know he's there. You don't have to go look it up. You got to go look it up on like the website, whatever. I don't even know what his job title is. But I think he's that guy. That's my view of it, is that he's that guy that helps out in that respect. So Mark Brunell, Lions QB coach. Yeah, I know, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Like, Mark Brunell doesn't fit because Mark Brunell's coaching. You want to bring Mark Brunell down for an OC or anything like that, that's fine. That'll be part of the conversations at some point if this gets to it. And I'm way premature on this, but it's just, again, coming off the Lions and what we're looking at, I'm going to get ahead on this part Like, if they have to reset this, and this is the problem with like a Baselli, they can't just force it in right now. It's got to be when they reset it the next time, like if things continue downhill, if that's what they decide to do. They need this third party in their structure that has the organization and Shad Khan and everything else above all. Hard thing to find now in that world, but I think we have options here in Jacksonville, and I think we really have one option that makes a ton of sense to do that. So we'll see. Well, I got a feeling we'll have a lot of those conversations down the road when it comes to it. If we have to have those, hopefully we don't. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully they figure it out. I've still got a little hope that they can figure some stuff out. But right now it's not fun, and right now it's tracking in a certain way. And again, I want to make it crystal clear. I'm not firing Doug yet. I haven't. I know everybody else wants it. It happens. I told you it's not happening anytime soon. It's not a shot thing. And honestly, I think he has a chance here to figure it out. There was more to like the other day than I think we want to admit, maybe even I want to admit. And they have some time to figure it out, but now is the time. And I don't know where it leads. I don't think it leads to the place that you want it to go. I think they're done in terms of a playoff chance. But I also think I know how this world works in the NFL, where if they all of a sudden do win and get themselves in the fight somehow, well, that's going to play well with the owner after this start. An owner that's been very patient over time. So how this all works out still, I think, is very much up in the air. I do want to talk a little bit about Miami. I want to talk about a lot about the Jags still. We got some Doug from yesterday, different than Doug than Sunday. I want to talk a little more about the Lions. Like, what does make them go? Like, why is this? And I've got some thoughts on Goff specifically, and it shows you that it can happen. But it shows you that confidence is king in sports, too, because that's what we're seeing in places like that. Seeing it with Geno Smith. That game is such a great microcosm of what it could be, what it should be for your quarterback. And it's what the Jags are missing. And you can blame game probably has a lot of different fingers to point at. But the bottom line is they got to get there. They got to get there with Trevor Lawrence. They got to get there the way Seattle got here with Geno Smith and Detroit got there with Jared Goff. They got that in their building. The Jags have that. How do they find it?
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
All right, there's our lineup here in the fall, and there's a lot going on. Today is after the game, 2 o'clock, right here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. That's our top middle graphic, presented by Baker Sports and High School 912. And Coach Osbeck from Bishop Snyder talking a little baseball will be with Josh Baker on the show. Next week, we talk a little soccer with Coach Pickett, legendary coach here in the state of Florida and really all across the country in high school. So we're starting to mix up some different sports as we're in football season, and we continue our After the Game series. I'm telling you, you got to check it out if you like stories and you like high school sports or you like the coaching profession. There's a lot of different buckets this one fills. If you just like interviews, I mean, it's a cool show. We have the entire playlist on our YouTube channel, Action Sports Jax, but we unveil new episodes right here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network, actionnewsjax.com, Action News Jax app, Action News Jax now on your smart TV. You can watch it right from home. And 2 o'clock, it'll also replay at 6 o'clock and various times during the week, including on Fridays as we have more high school football coverage. We'll be back with the Friday Night Zone Blitz. So that's the update on that. After the game, new episode coming up today at 2 o'clock. Young and Norvell show at 4 o'clock. And then a bunch of different things like if you missed Jags Report Live or our post-game show, we have that on the network only. You won't see that on social media or on the YouTube channel. You can see it as part of the programming that we have on this Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. We do have Jaguars All Access coming up on Thursday. Christian Kirk scheduled to be our guest. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane on the way to Vegas. Rob in the booth today, so we appreciate him being here for that. Let's see, we got a couple of comments here. There's a narrative, even in the chat today, that Trevor doesn't have passion for football. With you being closer to the team than the fans, what is your read on that? Yes, you're right, Delphonic. We are a conglomerate. We do have a lot going on. So anyway, Roger, I'll address that. I have no problem addressing that. So the thought, I didn't see all that going on in the chat. I missed that. There was a thought from a Sports Illustrated article and quote that I think was really taken out of context when he got during the draft process, you might remember. And I think that's where this notion came from, that that Trevor cares about a lot of things. And football's one of them, but it's not the only thing. From getting married young to his faith to there's bigger things. I think it was something along the lines like, hey, there's bigger things than football. And that was kind of the perspective of it. And I think he was talking about family and faith and things like that. But I think it totally got taken out of context. And I never really thought that, first of all. I don't ever want to think that a person that's playing the game at this level doesn't want to be playing and doesn't have a passion to play it. But I will say this. There are some guys that play it just for a business. Like that exists. There are some guys that are in the NFL because they're extremely talented, and this is what they do. No different than some other people's work, right? Not everybody loves their job, but they might make a lot of money at it. So, okay, that's what we do. Or this is what my skill set says, so this is what I do. So that's kind of a common thing. We don't like that in sports, right? Because it comes from a game and a kid kind of setting that all originates, and like passion's important, and you got to love it for the most part, especially through hard times. So it does exist in the NFL that there are guys that just don't even watch football outside of playing it. Like I've heard those stories before. I think it's uncommon though. I think most of the guys that play love the game. It's easy now to have the business side of this take over because there's so much money in the game. And I think that's why you hear GMs and coaches and say, we're trying to find guys that love the game. I think there's an element of loving the game, and then there's another element of loving the game. But let me tell you this, what I found out over the last 3+ years is Trevor Lawrence loves the game. And bigger than loving the game is he wants to be great. And I asked him that in a sit-down interview right before the season. I thought his answer was spectacular about his will to be great, his want to be great for his teammates, for him, for like he wants to win Super Bowls. Like he believes in legacy, all those things. So his answer checks the box. But I got that box checked even before. If you talk to people in the building, and the guy that stands out to me is Mike McCoy. We've interviewed him before about Trevor multiple times, and he doesn't even, you don't have to ask him that. So it's not like a fake thing that potentially could be in an answer. We're like, oh yeah, he loves the game. No, that's not how it goes. If you listen to Mike McCoy, in the instances that we've talked to him, he's the one that brings it up. He wants to be great. He wants to be great. Like you'll hear this over and over. And so I really think it's genuine with Trevor. And I'll say this about Trevor too, and I've said this kind of off air. Trevor's not a good liar. Like he doesn't BS you. There are people that in front of a microphone are really good at kind of being able to skirt the real topic, or that's not Trevor. Trevor, I've applauded him before, and I think it's very cool that he takes your question, he soaks it in, and he gives you a real response. I don't know if he'll do that in another 5 years, if he'll play the game a little bit more, but right now, he gives you a genuine response. That's why I appreciate him. I know Austin's made fun of me over the years about him in front of a microphone, but I think him in front of a microphone really tells a story. He takes you in. He's even said he's not going to take you everywhere or all the way in, but he takes you in. I appreciate that. I think you should appreciate that as a fan. I mean, he is not, with all due respect, the Tom Brady at the microphone or a Bill Belichick at the microphone. These guys don't want to really take you there. I think he really is thoughtful about his answers, gives you something, gives you a little bit of insight, and I think it's genuine because I think that's who he is. I don't think he's a BSer. And so when he says he wants to be great, when it's all about Lombardi trophies, when it's about the turning this franchise, when it's about being the franchise quarterback, like all those things, I think it's very genuine to him. I think it means a lot to him, actually. Like I would totally 180 on the concept of that and say, what I've learned is I think it means a hell of a lot to him. And his will to win, his will to be great is absolutely there. And I would suggest, and I think there is some suggestion of this right now, that his will to be great, his want to be great, he want to do it for you, the fan, the city of Jacksonville, because he really likes it here. is actually weighing him down from playing great football. So I would flip it on its head and say he wants it too much right now. So that's where I am with Trevor. And I don't know that because we can't get inside somebody, right? We don't know that part of it. But I would suggest that's a little bit of his issue right now is he's not playing free football because of that. The weight of the contract. Some people say it takes the weight off. But I don't think he gives a damn about the money. So I don't think, like, if he had played this year, I think we were asked the question, maybe it was Austin or somebody else asked it, if he hadn't got the contract, would it be heavy on him? That he's playing for the contract. I don't think so. Guy's got plenty of money. And I don't think he cares about it. Like, I really don't. I don't think at this stage of it, he cares about it. So, the money. So, I don't think that would be weighty. I think it actually, in a weird way, works against him here. That he's wearing the weight of the contract and not performing to the degree that he wants to, should be, his expectations for himself, your expectations, his coach's expectations, his teammates' expectations, the city's expectations. There's a lot on this 24-year-old guy, and he handles it. He doesn't mind it. But I do think at this moment, some of his inconsistent play and his not reaching his ceiling play at this time has to do with just the opposite of that question. He wants it so damn bad that I think he tries a little bit too hard at times. And he's wearing it. And I think that's starting to become a little bit of a thought in that building. Like, how do you loosen him up? How do you just say, go play? And I think Trevor's trying like hell, man. Go back to last week. This was a storyline that I don't think really got a lot of attention, but somebody, and I was going to do this. If the Jags had won, I was really going to try to identify who came up with the mantra last week of play like a kid. You know, Fred Funk used to say, putt like a kid. Just walk up to it and putt, and usually it'll be good. Don't think about it so much. Well, they said the same thing last week. Play like a kid, man. Play like it's a game. Have fun. You heard Trevor say it. You heard ETN say it. And when I heard ETN say it, I was like, all right, this is a message. This is a mantra. Who did it? Was it Doug? Was it another coach? Or was it Trevor or players that said, chill out, stop pressing, relax, go have fun? Like, you guys are wearing the weight of this thing all over you. But it was clear on Monday Night Football, if you go watch some of the stuff out there, that you could tell. There was a lot of weight on the shoulders of Trevor and probably other guys too, but there was a lot of weight on Trevor. He was tight from the jump. Go watch some of the breakdowns of that game, and it's pretty clear. So, and I thought he was more loose. I thought the team was more loose. And if it had resulted in a win, I was really going to go with that topic. And I want to find out who did it. But since it didn't result in a win, it's kind of pointless. It didn't work. So I do think they need more of that, though. I think that message is right. That mantra of just go play. But I do think it's also, by human nature, harder to do than we think. If you've ever played sports or done anything of whatever is important to you, when you think about it too much, it doesn't usually work out the way you want it to. When you try it or you want it too much, when you let loose a little bit, it kind of comes to you. They're saying that. I don't think they're necessarily doing that. I think Trevor's trying to talk himself into it. He's saying it, not necessarily do it. And it's not the first time we've heard Trevor say this. If you go back to, and I don't remember the specifics, but if you go back to the London conversation, when he had thrown the interception against Denver, which he had done against Houston as well in the end zone, he basically said on his way home, he had a conversation with himself is how he presented it. And it was like, dude, just go play and let it rip. And he was able to. See, you can say it, but can you do it? That's the easier said than done part. Trevor was able to. Talked himself in, said, just go play, some good things happen. Boom, they flipped the switch. I think he's there. He's almost there. He's saying it. That's why I go back to earlier in this show, and I believe this. I really believe this. Because I believe in some of the sports psychology stuff that just exists. I believe in the human nature stuff of all of us, but specifically even these athletes who are great and get paid a lot of money, they're no different than us in this respect. That if he hits that ball to Kirk, I think that flips it. Like, I think there he goes. But he didn't. Now he's got to do it the next time it comes about. play a pretty good game, and then have things go right, hit the one big play that gets you going, like, now I'm feeling it. That's how guys get in a zone, right? I mean, you're not in a zone all the time. LeBron's not in a zone all the time. He gets to a certain space. Mahomes isn't in a zone. Mahomes, they're winning games, and he ain't playing that great. He's not feeling great, but he's able to make enough. They're winning. At least he can do it under the umbrella of winning. The problem is the Jags are doing it under the umbrella of losing. And when you do that, it just mounts, and the weight wears them down even more. So I love the question, because it gets me into this space of, this is the problem. I just don't know how you change it without playing your way out of it. And we suggested that last week, I think it was, in our questioning to Kirk and others. Just got to go play. The problem with the NFL is that you got to wait a week, and you only get 17. If this was the NBA, you get 82 and you play every other night. Or if this was MLB, where you play the next day, so much easier in that respect. Now, it's a different kind of mounting. Like if you're having a hitting slump, you can't get away from it because you just got to go back out there. Golf might be the same way or whatever else, but football's weird because you get 4 quarters to do it. Trevor's going to watch that tape, and he's going to have all these thoughts like, hey, man, I played loose. I was trying to be more loose. I'm talking myself into it. I'm almost there. I just got to make a couple more plays. And he's going to see it. And he's going to say, man, the offensive line played well. And overall, we did what we wanted to do in a lot of these things. Man, that was a nice throw I had. And then he's going to see those plays that he missed. He's like, son of a. And he's got to stew on it. For these last 2 days, listen to us talk about it. Not that he's probably listening. But then he gets on the practice field, and he's got to, okay, let's build toward the next opportunity. I think that's really hard in football. Same thing when Kirk was struggling out of the gates. All right, give me the ball. But how do you not put enough emphasis on, okay, there's my, I get 5 of these chances to catch the football. This one's a big one. Make sure you catch it. So, these are just natural things. I don't think these guys are immune from this stuff. But I also did tell somebody, I was like, this is what made Manny Ramirez so great, in my opinion. It was like he didn't give a damn. Manny Ramirez, he was such a good hitter, but it also was like, if he struck out and looked foolish on one at bat, he didn't really give a damn. And so he come back in and hit a home run the next time up. If you care, and by the way, I think Manny cared. It's just by it just looked like that. And I think there are some players that you're almost so selfish in a way that whatever. I look at Tyreek Hill like this. I think Tyreek Hill's a guy who drops the ball, so what? Go make another one. Of course, he's got so much built up equity that the one, whatever. But I'm going to go make the next one. I don't care. But he comes across to me like a selfish player. I'm only worried about me. See, the problem a little bit, I think, with guys like Trevor and maybe even this locker room is I don't really think they're that selfish. They are to a degree because everybody has to be. You have to have an ego. I actually think this locker room wants to win this for the city. They want to win. They want to win for their coaches. They want to win for that building. I think there's a lot of want to. They want to be great. They know they have potential to be way better than this. And I think that weighs on them, and especially on the quarterback. He understands it. So, I mean, listen, that's my sports psychology session. But I think that's real stuff, real stuff. And, Trev needs a little Pedro Martinez mentality. You're right. You want to swear, right? I don't give up. That's what you want to. But I'm not sure Trevor has that. I think he does. Now, can you talk yourself into it? Maybe. Because here's what Trevor has that I think the Tyreek Hills of the world do have. I think Trevor knows he's damn good. And that might even weigh on you even more. Because your expectation of where you should be playing at is so up here that it bothers you that you're not. And that you're just playing here. Sometimes even when you play good or you win. What the hell, man? I should be up here. I should be a top 3 quarterback in the National Football League. That might be your expectation of him, might be Doug's expectation, might be Shad's expectation of him, might be Balky's expectation of him, might be his teammates' expectation of him. It's his, and he ain't delivered on it. So I think that's where a lot of this stuff stems from, and it's been now over time. One thing to do that for a week or two, a month, a little hey, get by the injury stuff. Hey, listen, I didn't practice. I was banged up. I was trying like hell to come back for my team. I can talk myself into that. I think Trevor can too. But how's he talk himself out of missing 2 balls like that? I just guarantee he hadn't slept well the last couple of nights because I think it means a lot to him. So, sorry, I went on a little run on your question, but I think that it is totally the opposite of that whole like SI thought, or if that's what people are talking about in the chat, like he didn't care. I think it's absolutely a 180 from that. I think he really, really cares, and almost to a fault, about getting it right. So we'll see if he's able to come over. That's a mental hurdle. That's why I kind of asked Doug a little bit, like, I think I phrased it to Doug yesterday when we were talking about Trevor. I was like, is this a slump or is this a mental hurdle? And honestly, that's not on Doug to answer that way. And I'm not even sure Doug fully knows. Heck, I don't even know if Trevor was looking at it, he fully knows. But my view on it is it's more of a mental hurdle. I think the overthrows are a mental hurdle because you know what? He's now in the mode of don't turn the ball over. Well, I can't turn the ball over if I throw it 3 yards too deep. I can turn it over if I leave it in a yard too short. And the other guy gets a chance. Simple. It's simple. Like that's to me, that's just what's the mantra coming into this year on Trevor? Don't turn it over. Well, you're going to throw it a little longer. Guess what? The Gabe Davis play in Buffalo throws it out of bounds. Guess what? The Brian Thomas play the other day. Did you see that one? I had let that one slip, but I saw it yesterday where he throws it out of bounds. And like Brian Thomas is looking for it. Now, I have no idea where that's supposed to be thrown, but most people think that's supposed to be thrown on the inside. Well, guess what's happened on the inside? The defender's going with Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas has a step, but also there's a safety coming over. Well, guess who can't pick it off if you throw it on the on the boundary? The safety. See what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm talking about with, like, that's where Trevor is. Trevor, on a throw where there's a defender on Christian Kirk, and he dives for the ball. Remember that one? On the short pass? That guy had that covered pretty well. But if he throws it to the outside, where only Christian can catch it, which, by the way, made a great catch on it for like a gain of a yard. But it can't be picked off. See, these are the things that happen, and this is what we know about quarterbacks, and we've seen it in Jacksonville. Blaine Gabbert. Blaine, don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. All right, then, a little hesitation, not letting it rip. Hey, looks good on practice field. Yeah, ain't letting it rip because he's waiting. Blake, don't turn the football over. Don't turn the football over. Don't turn the football over. Got wide open down the seam. Not going to throw it. Missed opportunity. Trevor, don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Throw it out of bounds. Miss. Little overthrow. Don't even try to attack the middle of the field. That's why you've got to be so careful to say don't turn the ball over. Listen, you can say don't fumble, meaning don't do the stupid pirouette crap in the middle of the pocket and try to do too much. But don't say don't throw the ball with a guy who can chuck it. Mahomes is going to throw some picks. Aaron Rodgers throws some, well, he didn't throw a lot. Rodgers has thrown picks. Favre threw picks. Manning threw picks. Marino threw picks. Elway threw picks. Let him throw it. Do not coach that out of him would be my message. Like, do not say it. Fumbles are one thing. But you have heard our show a lot. If you've heard our show, we've never said, I don't care about the picks. Now, if he had 25 of them, it'd be one thing. If you throw the ball 600 times in a season, you're going to throw interceptions. I mean, until the last play of the game, I'm not even sure Trevor's put a ball in harm's way outside of the overthrow to Brian Thomas Jr., which was just a simple miss. It wasn't even contested. So, like, Trevor's not even throwing in traffic very often. You guys might have more in your head than me. He's not even throwing in traffic. But when he's hot, I take you back to last year and he throws the bullet through the Indianapolis Colts defender. When he's hot or when he thinks he can throw every throw, he might make a mistake where he throws it in the back of the end zone because he's trying to throw it through a defensive player for the Denver Broncos. But see, to me, that's a bad decision too, okay? But if you're getting picks in those situations, that's actually a guy that's feeling good about himself. Don't tell him not to do it. When you get the guy that tell him, don't turn the ball over, don't turn the ball over. This is like moms and dads, my hitting advice to you if your kid's a hitter. Don't say anything that has a negative connotation to it. Don't say, don't swing at a curveball. Don't swing at strike 3 or ball 4 or don't. Hitting coach in the third base box. You know how hard hitting is? Why the hell would I want subconsciously in my mind a negative thought? It's like one of the big mistakes coaches and parents make on their kids. Why? Don't ever use the word don't. Cheering for your kid. In probably any sport, but especially hitting. But this is the same concept to me of, I've seen it for a decade. Don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. Well, you take away their biggest weapon. A guy that can chuck it. Let him chuck it. If he throws it to the wrong team occasionally, so what? Chuck it again the next time. And that's what Doug was saying yesterday. We're going to trust our guy. But right now, I think this is Doug and Press trusting him. I think this is more Trevor's got to trust himself. But in the back of his mind, he's saying, all right, don't turn it over. Well, guess what? He's turned it over one time in 4 football games, and you're 0-4. That ain't the problem. The problem is maybe you're trying so dang hard not to turn it over that you're not making the gimme layups. This actually goes back to a little Josh Hines Allen. 3 years ago, trying so dang hard to get a sack that you're missing your layups. And you end up with 8. Well, he got the layups last year and ends up with 17.5. So, man, you guys got me on a heater on the question of does he care? Yeah, he cares way too much. I wish that he would say, I don't give a bleep. Honestly. I really do. And I think you'll see the talent take over at that point. We're just not there. We're not seeing the talent take over for Trevor because he's not comfortable. So that gets me to we're definitely not getting the Coughlin interview, by the way, because now that just got me rolling. But that actually gets me to the Seattle and Lions topic. Because I'm watching a couple quarterbacks play, and I would just ask you this. Like, do you think Jared Goff and Geno Smith are better than Trevor Lawrence? And I think, well, you're going to tell me, Brent, yeah, they are right now. Okay, fine. But are they better? Do you think if Trevor went to Detroit and played in that offense, he would be just as good? Now, listen, Goff was great last night, 18-18 or something. But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying just as good. Would they cook? Would Seattle? I'm really on the cook topic these days. Huh? I got that word flying around a lot. Seattle. You know, outplay Geno Smith? Yeah, I think he would. Those guys have done such a good job in both places making their guy comfortable. And so much of that is positivity, not a lot of negative stuff, wins, complimentary football, all the cliches. I get that. But this is where Doug, again, you can tell me the plays are there, and I'm fine with that. And I don't necessarily disagree with it. But your job is to get that kind of play that Detroit's getting out of Goff and Seattle's getting out of Geno. And while, yes, some of that is on the quarterback, I just said it, you've got to help him through that. And I don't know what that looks like because I'm not smart enough. That's your job. Like, you guys have to figure out how to get this guy to play better football and how to make him comfortable and confident to play his football and let the talent come out. Now, what they're doing is trying a little more. They're going to run the football. Okay. They're going to take their shots. Okay. Like, again, Sunday's game plan is really the formula. Now he's going to hit the play. Now, what I would say is Sunday's game plan on the goal line was a disaster. You didn't help him out at all. You could have put him in heavy set. You could have And second down, be play action. You could just hand it to the run. Like you can do a myriad of things that you didn't do, I thought, in the goal line. And that's second guess, and I get it. But you could have helped them out more on the goal line. I don't think you did. So, and this is why I was so adamant, and I've been adamant, like Urban didn't do this. Urban waited until like whatever it was, 10 games, 12 games into the season to get him his 10th touchdown of the year. It took forever. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching like these sometimes 1-yard runs when they would score or 2-yard runs. I'm like, just throw the football and get him his 10th touchdown so we can stop talking about it. Now, Doug hasn't been like that, and I understand you're not trying to make him an MVP candidate. There are just layups. There are layups to be made in an offense that I believe are there. And by the way, the Jags started to show signs of that. So again, I'm kind of going back and forth, and I understand if Doug and Press were right here, they'd say, like, well, we did. I get it. You did. You started the game with some quick stuff. Got him in a little bit of a rhythm. And by the way, it worked. Like their offense was in a rhythm for like 3 quarters at times. And then him missing some of those shots was problematic. But let's be honest, like the numbers are out there. Trevor's not a bad deep ball thrower. Trevor likes those shots. Remember the first year? We had to say, dial it back, dude. Stop throwing the ball down the field so much. We'd actually say that. And now, see, this is a good formula maybe coming in this week. I don't have them in front of me. I'll do them maybe later for tomorrow or for countdown to kickoff. But the one team that, if you look at one team that Trevor's played really good football against, it's Indianapolis. His numbers are terrific. Even going back to that rookie year because what they did in the season finale. So his numbers are really good against Indy. What he's learned to do against Gus's defense is take what they give him. And there was a game here, I think 2 years ago now, I think he went like something crazy, right? Like 24, 27, or 26 or 28. And so this might be a great possibility game to get him in an even better rhythm. But now you got to finish and win. Like the other day was fine if they win. I think there was a lot to build on. And you can say, damn it, missed the deep ball. But if Gabe Davis catches it, or you run it in for that matter, you win the football game and you win in Houston. And he's got maybe 3 touchdowns and totally different, right? So they're right there. And maybe the Colts does that. Game does that because the defense, they'll give you stuff. And now if they just take it, and also you can run very well against the Colts right now. You could the first couple of games. I didn't check last week. They did a better job in game 3. But I just think, I don't know what that looks like. Doug knows what that looks like. But guess who else knows what that looks like? Ben Johnson knows what that looks like in Detroit. They know what it looks like in Seattle. They know what it looks like right now in Washington. They know what it looks like in Tampa. I mean, these guys are getting great play and confident play out of quarterbacks that are less than Trevor Lawrence. And I get it's part the guy. He's got to do it. But there's no doubt, in my opinion, that it's got a lot to do with how they're setting these quarterbacks up. I'll give you one other example. And I know he's not the greatest example. But Daniel Jones, the last 2 weeks in the first half alone, there's no doubt Brian Dable has been setting him up for a lot of success. I mean, his passer rating or completion percentage in the first half of these last 2 games has been ridiculously good. So you can't tell me that it's like there's not stuff there to do. Doug's a smart enough offensive guy in mind to be able to do it, and I think they tried some of that the other day. I think they were on the verge of it. I think they have to continue that, and then Trevor's got to do his part. So this is, well, I'm putting plenty of blame on Trevor here. But I also do think the coaches are culpable in helping their offensive line, helping him. And then the players are because they got to make damn plays, right? I mean, if we could go a game in Jacksonville without like this glaring miss from a receiver or a quarterback, like that's our next hurdle. Every game, there's a miss. Usually by a receiver, there's a miss. There are 2, Luke Farrell and Davis had the miss. And I even think Christian Kirk did a good job on the one backyard play down the middle of the field. But then there are several misses in that game for Trevor. Several. Where they either helped him out or couldn't even try to help him out because the ball was misplaced so much. But can we get to a game on Sunday where we don't see one of those? Because it's easy pitch and catch stuff. Maybe in a weird way, and I know this sounds crazy, you have to almost dial back the explosives. Because the explosives they are lower percentage. Now, those two shouldn't have been, but they are lower percentage. So, Delphonic, throw some back shoulders on 50-50 balls to BTJ. Daniel Jones just chucking it to neighbors on a lot of his plays. Yeah, and not only that, I would say, Delphonic, I think it's not just Brian Thomas Jr. I think you're right about Brian Thomas Jr. because he's already shown the ability to go contest. But I think Gabe Davis works this way, too. Gabe Davis is a bigger body guy. You can back shoulder that guy. You can back shoulder almost anybody. I really don't. Like, we sit there and watch football, and we're like, how do you defend the back shoulder? I have no idea. I don't understand why they wouldn't run that play like 7 times in a game. Sooner or later, there's got to be a tell, is my guess. But they run it like once a game, maybe. That and the wheel route, I just don't, like, if I'm stuck, I'm doing those 2 plays nonstop. And there's got to be a reason they don't. And I never pretend to have a call sheet or know what that looks like or feels like or should be done. But I don't understand why they don't run those 2 plays more. I think those 2 plays are like the most difficult plays to defend in the National Football League, in football, in general. All right, we are way late now. We got to take a break. Rob, let's hit a break. Is he in there? You in there, Rob? There we go. I put you to sleep, Rob? You're there.